Welcome everybody to season 4, episode 24 of Oz Media's Motivate Me 313 podcast. Today's topic is courage under fire. Muslim firefighters share their journeys. Our first time ever having not one, but two Muslim firefighters in the building today. Some of you may have thought they don't exist, to be honest with you, but hey, they do exist and they are in our neighborhoods. So let's go ahead and give a shout out to the people here in the building today. Starting off with little big bro Yusuf T in the back on the ones and twos. As always, we appreciate him. Then to the right of me, coming straight out of the Dearborn Fire Department, is my brother Khalid Zaghloul. Yes. Give him a round of applause. By the way, we got crowd here, by the way. They like to clap at the right time. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, you got myself, Omar T. And then to the left of me, coming out of Detroit's Fire Department, is my brother Mohammed Aljahmi. Both got two brothers in the building today, man. Looking forward to a great show. So, we've never had a firefighter show. And then, shout out, he's waiting for this moment. Shout out to Uthman, you know what I'm saying? Inshallah, future Dearborn council member, Uthman. He's going to be happy that we said that. But inshallah, a great guy, by the way. And he's been a friend of the podcast, too. We've had him on the show. And inshallah, we have him in the future. He was like, hey, man, why don't we do this podcast show? And then shout out to Mohammed too. Mohammed. I don't know what his real last name is. I don't know if that's just his government last name. But shout out to Mohammed too. These guys are all helped out with making this show possible. And they're like, I was like, what? Of course, I was like, we've never had firefighters on the show, man. So let's make it happen and also inspire people. Because I'll say that later. I'm gonna mention something that maybe you guys can agree to it. But be sure to follow us on all of our socials. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Apple, and Spotify podcasts, all under Oz Media. You can find all those platforms on our website at ozmedia313.com. Shout out to the sponsors of the show: Hanley International Academy, Holy Bowling, Wingfellas, Juice Box, Melika Kebab, Jebed Coffee House, and Royal Kebab. And let's start off the place with some fire wings, Yusuf. Since we're talking about fire today, the best wings in town. That is Wingfellas. And then, I'm sorry, I know we're all fasting, but
that make me hungry.
Yeah, I know. But shout out to Wingfellas, and let's keep the show rolling. So shout out to Wingfellas.
Do you know what goes perfect with the big game or your favorite TV show? Some deliciously tender wings from Wingfellas. Wingfellas restaurant is home to the best wings in Michigan. With over 20 different sauces and seasonings to choose from, you can make sure every wing order you make caters to your taste buds. They have 7 different locations in Michigan. They have a location in Dearborn, Southfield, Detroit, Belleville, Wyandotte, Flint, and Taylor. So no matter where you are at in the state, Wingfellas is your one-stop shop for some fall-off-the-bone wings. Also, be sure to visit them at their website at thewingfellas.com.
All right, we're officially back. We're ready to get this show rolling. My question that I wanted to ask you before we even actually dive into stuff is, so I spoke to this attorney. He was talking to me, and the city attorney. We were driving home from seeing a friend, and basically he was telling me, like, man, if I ever had to start over, if someone that was a high schooler or someone that was graduating out of high school, and if they were to ever ask me what's a profession to look into, he said, become a firefighter. Do you guys agree to that question or that statement? I mean,
you want to start off? Or?
Sure, 100%. Alhamdulillah, I was blessed with. I did the early college program with Henry Ford College, so I actually got my paramedic degree when I was 18 years old.
Oh, mashallah.
And then,
that's difficult.
Yeah. And I went straight to the fire academy. So I was actually the youngest firefighter ever hired on Dearborn.
wow.
That's a flex.
Look at that. Give that a round of applause. Hey, I'm happy I asked this question right here.
Yeah.
I got a chance to let you start off with some facts right quick, man.
Mashallah.
Yeah. So it's the best profession in the world.
For real?
There's no other profession like it. I mean, you can attest to it.
Yeah, I see a big smile on your face.
Yeah,
too. The smile kind of says it all, to be honest. You don't even have to say an answer. Then that's sweet, man. Can you just tell us why? Maybe just give us a couple reasons why. You don't have to dive in too much.
So there's, when you go to your job, this is something you're going to be doing for a good chunk of your lifetime, So you want to do something that you actually enjoy. You want to do something that actually has a purpose. Corporate jobs, it's like, sitting behind a computer, doing numbers, doing this. You're making money for someone else. When you're, working in a public service job, whether it's a firefighter, paramedic, police officer, or even, in the hospital, something like that, you have a purpose. You're serving people, and then you're also, in a way, you're serving your Lord. You're giving back to, Allah blessed us with this life, and Allah blessed us with the ni'mah of being able to go to school. you're taking his blessing and then you're putting it forward by helping other people.
Yeah.
And it's also another thing. It's a form of da'wah.
Yeah.
For me, that's how I look at it.
I love that. Those
you
are
know,
some positive spins
yeah.
to it right there, man. I like that. How do you want to add on to that, man?
Yeah, no, I agree with him. I don't want to sound like a cliche because I'm sure everybody says this about their job, whether they're a doctor, whether they're an engineer. But I truly believe it's the greatest job in the world. Couple of reasons why. I mean, first of all, you're serving the public, you're helping people, you're not only gaining, financial means money, you're also gaining hasanat for the akhirah. So it's dunya and akhirah. That's one of the best jobs you can ever have. I mean, you're really just working with a bunch of guys that like helping. I mean, there's female, don't get me wrong, but but I think that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
I can't think of Muhammad Ali once said, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth is service to others.
Yes.
So that's basically.
I love that. I love that. So, going off of that, what made you guys want to become firefighters? We'll start off with you on this one. Like, what inspired you to pursue this profession?
SubhanAllah. So I grew up in Brooklyn, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City. I was an EMT over there for the FDNY, for the fire department over there. EMT is basically a person that works in the ambulance. There's EMTs and paramedics, and I'm sure we could dwell into that later. But I worked there for a year, and then I bumped into one of my old friends in New York City, and I was like, yo, I didn't see you in a while. How you been? I'm like, you look different. You got a mustache. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm a firefighter. I'm like, oh, really?
Is that like a universal thing? Those mustaches?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's part of the culture. But there's actually reason why is that part of our job is interior firefighting. So at times we'd have to fight the fire from inside, and part of that entails wearing a mask. And when you wear the mask, it has to have a seal all over your chin and jaw area. And if you have facial hair here, it interferes with your seal. You don't want to breathe in that smoke or that 1,000-degree air, and it's gonna burn up all your lungs. So that's why majority of, I want to say majority, but yeah,
I do see a lot of
yeah,
firefighters
I would
with
say majority. Yeah.
mustaches,
It's part of the culture, and honestly, we should keep it alive.
Yeah, that's funny.
Does it? I guess you could say, yeah, it kind of sucks. I can't grow a beard, but it's not the biggest deal in the world because I know I'm sacrificing something little as a beard for helping others. But yeah, so I bumped into him, and he's telling me, yeah, I'm a firefighter. I'm like, no, really? He's like, what do you guys do other than firefight? He's like, we go to medical runs, we go to people get stuck in elevators, car accidents. I'm like, what do you do when you're not on a call? He's like, yeah, we train. Yeah, we'll wash the fire truck in the morning, but we hang out, we cook, we, watch TV. I'm like, wow, that sounds like a great, I'm like, how's this, he just kept on going. And I'm like, I'm an introverted person. I like helping people. I like talking to people. So from there on, I wasn't originally going to apply for become a firefighter in New York City, but long story short, I didn't see myself living there the rest of my life just due to like tax and political and population. It's just, I'm not really a big fan of major cities like that.
Yeah.
So my cousins in Dearborn like, yo, come check out Dearborn. Beautiful city. Michigan's a great state. Applied for the Detroit Fire Department. From there on, alhamdulillah, I've been going on for almost 2 years now.
Love that. Go ahead, give that a round of applause,
Yeah.
man. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Great story. Happy to have you here, by the way. We appreciate you, serving the communities that we're in. What's your story, man?
So
First of all, no mustache. So you're not doing the mustache thing, huh?
no mustache.
I don't see the
good
beard
on.
though. So the beard thing, I kind of noticed. I don't remember any firefighter with the beard.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's just it's a safety thing.
It's a health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to create a complete seal with your mask. If you don't, you're breathing in that smoke. Everything that we're pulling people out of, you're breathing it in, and then
Nothing against religion.
Yeah.
People tend to associate that.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no.
and you're firefighter. If it has a beard, breathing in all that smoke, then you have a firefighter down. That's a whole other emergency.
Yeah.
We're here to solve an emergency, not create another one.
Yeah. I love that.
What got me into it? Like I said, I was in the early college program, so I was technically in high school, and I watched a lot of a show called Chicago Fire.
That's funny.
This is the dumbest reason, the weirdest reason. I watched a lot of show called Chicago Fire, and it got me into, the EMS side of it. And obviously, growing up Arab, parents want me to be an engineer, doctor, or lawyer.
Yeah.
I picked the doctor.
So are you considered a failure, by the way?
To my family, yes. I picked the doctor out, so I went and I was like, you know what? Pre-med med schools, they love paramedics and EMTs as pre-med.
Yeah.
Because of the job that you do. You're stuck in a situation where you have to think right on the spot, and you're basically like, as a paramedic, especially, you're bringing an emergency room to someone's house. Everything that ER does, you bring that into someone's house, into their living room. So we'll talk about that later. But so I started paramedic school. I started EMT school, then I started paramedic school, and then when I was doing paramedic, we do clinicals. We do the fire department. or you could do it with a private ambulance company that does 911. But I did it with the Dearborn Fire Department.
Okay.
And I did most of my ride-alongs with one certain crew. And there was just seeing everything that goes on there. You know, you're working 24-hour shifts, and it is a family. It becomes your family. It is your second family, closer than cousins, I'd say.
Yeah.
You're working. You see these guys more than your own personal family.
Yeah, for sure.
You're working with these guys 24-hour shifts. You know, alhamdulillah, we have a nice schedule where we only end up working about 10 days a month. That's because we work 24-hour shifts. So you're living with these guys. You're eating with them. You're cooking with them. You're cleaning with them, and then seeing that it made me love it even more. And then one of the firefighters, Ali Baji, he basically convinced me to join the fire service. And then after that, I finished paramedic school, went to the fire academy, and then boom.
How long is the fire academy?
There's different ones. I know Detroit does their own fire academy.
Yeah.
For the most of the state, you can go to any college that does it. So Macomb Community College does it, Oakland Community College does it. I went to Schoolcrafts. Mine was 9 weeks, but it's a 9-week full-time academy. So Monday through Friday, you're there from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Are you living on campus somewhere, or are you going?
No, you can go back home.
Okay.
So I lived in Dearborn, so it wasn't too bad of a drive.
Yeah.
So Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And my academy is the last 9-week academy. Now it's 11 weeks because there's a lot more to teach. So they found that 9 weeks, they weren't teaching it enough.
Yeah.
So some people weren't grasping the information fast enough, so they made it longer. So it's, 11 weeks. And then there's also like a part-time one, which is like a year. And then you could talk.
Yeah, I was gonna say is there any physical aspect to it?
I think that's the main distinguishment between police officers and firefighters. To be honest, you almost never typically see a obese or fat fireman. I don't know if I can use the word fat now. They call them plus size people.
You will be canceled after the show, but sorry.
So that's one of the main distinguishments is to be honest, strength, stamina, endurance, and heart. Part of the fire academy is you actually have to have a prerequisite, something called the CPAT. Yeah. That was one of the most difficult and strenuous physical exams I ever did in my life, and I'm sure he can attest to that. If you want me to go over it really quickly, it's basically where they slap a 75-pound vest on you, 75 pounds. You literally wear like a backpack, or it's kind of like a vest. You then have to climb stairs for 3 minutes without stopping and without holding the rails, wearing that 75-pound vest. After the 3 minutes are over, they just take off 25 pounds. Then you're wearing 50 pounds. And then you have to drag a hose line. You have to kind of imitate breaking a door. You have to go through a maze. You have to drag a 175-pound dummy. You have to imitate pulling ceiling. You have to, and this is all consecutively. This is all timed. This is all no breaks and no water. By the end, you're gasping for air, which is normal. I don't think that should, that should mean that you're not athletic. No, that would be for any typical athlete. So, and then once you finish that and you pass that, you go through an interview process. You take a simple math and English exam. Then in Detroit, the typical fire academy is 3 months firefighter and 3 months EMT. So fire departments nationwide, they're dual role in a sense that you're not only a firefighter, but you're an EMT or paramedic. If you'd like me or him to go into what the difference between an EMT or paramedic is, we could definitely do that. But it's basically where you'll be working on an ambulance and a fire truck. Especially with these days, medical calls are up and fire calls are down, which is, I guess you could say, it's a good thing. The reason I think because technology, more places have fire alarms, sprinkler systems, technology. And medical calls will always be up. People, unfortunately, will always be having strokes, seizures, heart attacks. People always be getting shot or stabbed. And they're just a stabbing next to my house on Warren and Schaefer, unfortunately. But so basically 3 months firefighting, 3 months EMT.
Interesting.
That's how it is. 6 months in total.
And I can't go on without mentioning the shift. I know you mentioned it quickly, but you said you work pretty much close to 10, 11 days a month. How does that work, if you want to explain to the audience out there? Like, what does that look like? Is it 10 straight days, or is it...
Oh, man, that would suck.
That would suck.
Yeah.
So I'll speak to the schedule I know the most, which is my department.
Yeah.
Our shifts, most fire departments do 24-hour shifts. So, I get into shift. We'll start, a basic Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. I'll get into shift at 8 a.m. Monday, and I'll finish 8 a.m. Tuesday. That's 24 hours. Then I'm off for that Tuesday. and I go back 8 a.m. Wednesday, work till Thursday 8 a.m. Then I'm off for that Thursday. Then I work Friday 8 a.m. till Saturday 8 a.m. Then I'm off for 4 days, so I get 96 hours off.
Okay.
So it's 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 96 off. So that's how my department does it, and then it works out with just the way that the rotation works, the way that the math works, is that you end up working about 10 to 11 days a month, and you get a substantial amount, off in between. But that's part of the reason for that is kind of the burnout that you get from, especially like you said, EMS calls are up.
Yeah.
EMS calls are way up.
Yeah.
So you need some time to kind of rest and rejuvenate after that, and then just kind of time to let your body recover from that, the lack of sleep. Those 24 hours that you're working, a lot of them, unless you're at like a slower station, you're not sleeping the whole night. You're maybe getting an hour or two of sleep, and the rest you're, out on medicals, and, emergencies don't stop at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Emergencies keep happening, and people keep calling 911 after that. So you need time for your body to recover from that sleep. And that's one of the reasons firefighters have such a high risk of cancer. I don't know if you know this or not. We have almost 2.5 times higher rate of getting cancer than other, normal people. Part of that's because of the sleep. Your body doesn't have enough time to sleep. It doesn't have enough time to fight. If it has something in it, sometimes, your body might have a small little tumor and it can attack it on its own. But when you don't have enough sleep, your body doesn't have enough time to rest and kind of attack that. So that's, one of the other reasons that firefighting is such a big risk for cancer.
Didn't even know that.
Yeah.
It's a great situation. It's a great way to break that down. So going off of that, a great start to the show, by the way. A lot of education being told right now. And the reason why I wanted you guys to do that is because I know a lot of people that graduate out of high school and they don't really think about ever becoming like a firefighter. Like I don't hear a lot of people saying, I want to become a firefighter. Usually when they're kids, they say that, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's a great profession, and I think it's a great opportunity, for people to take advantage of. Would like to see more people from our communities, being in those departments. And going off of that, as how has your your culture and your religious background influenced you, to work as a firefighter?
Yeah. So you were speaking about this earlier. You're basically serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're serving God in a sense that you're helping people. You're getting hasanat. وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ نَسِيًّا. Allah never forgets anything. So that one time you saved a life in the beginning of your career, Allah's not going to forget that. Maybe in the last year of your career you saved a life, Allah's not going to forget that. And we all know the famous ayah in chapter 5, I think verse 32. Whoever kills a soul is as if you killed all of humanity. Whoever saves one life is as if you saved all of humanity. So just going back to what I said, man, I can't think of a job, like I said, dunya and akhirah. I mean, no, doctors, farmers, they are dunya and akhirah in the sense that we get money and we get hasanat. I'm building my bank in this life, and I'm building my bank, which is more important for the next life. So it's shaped in a way I'm like, man, I want a job where I can help people. And firefighting, in my humble opinion, was the best way that I could do that. Doesn't require too much schooling. Like I said, it's going back to you're working with a bunch of brothers that really feel like a family. You spend 24 hours with them, cooking, cleaning, sleep. Well, not like he said, not that much sleeping, but other than that, it's a job where I also get to practice my faith, give da'wah. I get that one time I was praying upstairs. We have our own bedrooms and stuff, and a guy was passing by. He just saw me like bowing down, doing stuff, and when I went back downstairs, he's like, "Yo, Mohammed, were you doing yoga?" I'm like, "No, I was praying." He's like, "Oh, you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, I pray 5 times a day. Even when in terms of cooking, usually we take turns cooking. And then usually the cook in the beginning of the shift say, "Anybody have any allergies?" And I'm like, "Oh, brother, I just don't eat pork." He's like, "Oh, really? You're Muslim?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Muslim." He's like, "So you never had pork your whole life?" I'm like, "Never." He's like, "How about alcohol?" I'm like, "Never had a drop." And they get shocked, but that's a form
Super
of
surprised.
Yeah.
They get extremely shocked. They're like, not even a drop. I'm like, "No, really?" He's like, "Man, that takes a lot of discipline." I'm like, "Yeah, well, Malcolm X once said, a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything."
Yeah.
And they get inspired by that. It's a form of da'wah. I get to pray at my job. Well, not really. I was about to say uninterrupted. It's not uninterrupted because if that bell goes off, obviously you stop your salah. That actually happens more often than usual. But get to pray, get to eat halal food, get to read Quran. Like I said, on our free time, we're not just staring at the walls. We could do some training. We could do anything in our leisure time. And when that bell rings, we're out the door. So.
Mohammed Aljahmi, the man of quotes and everything, man. He got a lot of.
No, alhamdulillah, yeah.
That's what's up, man. I love that.
Alhamdulillah.
Hey, same question to you. You know, how's being a firefighter, you know, and your culture and religious background, how is that all, you know, correlate with one another and influence one another?
Kind of the same thing he said. You know, making sure, you know, it's your job, but to me, my deen comes first.
Yeah.
So while I'm at the firehouse, you know, still maintaining our salah, I keep my sajada in my, you know, in my locker. Like I said, we have separate dorms, so I always, you know, beginning a shift, put it out in my dorm, and, you know, try to get in there, you know, whenever I can. Obviously, you know, if a call comes in, you know, you gotta delay the salah, but, you know, make it up inshallah, and make sure you don't, you know, forget it. And something that actually happened recently, in Ramadan, I was on shift, I think it was last week, and it was 4 or 5 a.m. I got up to pray tahajjud, and I usually, when everyone's sleeping, I don't pray in the dorm because, you know, I can't recite loud, or you can't, you know, even whisper, you know, you hear every little tiny dot, you hear a needle drop. So I went to the gym. That's where I pray at night. So I went to the gym. I was walking at 4 a.m. My captain was working out. I was like, what's he doing up? I had because I had just made wudu, so I had my boots in one hand, and I had my sajada in the other hand. And he looks at me. This is one of my favorite captains I ever had, Captain Abraham, Station 4. He's like, no, man, come on in and pray. And I prayed, and then afterwards he was asking me some questions about the salah, and, you know, he's like, that's it. He's like, it doesn't take an hour. I was like, no, it's just quick 2 rakat, you know, just. And then just everyone asks you about your deen there, because it is a very disciplined religion, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discipline that goes into it. So when people hear that you haven't drank your whole life, when people hear that you know, you don't eat pork, you don't gamble, you know, you don't go to clubs or anything like that, they're actually impressed. And it's the people that you wouldn't expect to be impressed with it that are the most impressed with it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, you know, it's nice.
You know what's incredible about what you guys both just said, because hearing the stories, it reminded me when I went to MSU, because now I'm back here in this area, and it's like you got so many Muslims that you don't have to explain so much, and then working in Hamtramck, it's surrounded by Muslims, so like I'm kind of back in the bubble. But when I was in East Lansing, you know, I used to tell them a lot about the deen and stuff, and they're so impressed, but for us it's like second nature.
Yeah,
Literally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we feel like it's just, hey, I mean, it ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like we every day, you know, we do this every day.
Couldn't imagine any other way.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Subhanallah, man. But that's the beauty of it. You know, Allah makes it easy on us once we are sincere about our efforts. And so going off of that, I'm all about representation. You know, I know we kind of did a little bit of talking about before the show about this, but you know, in what ways do you feel like your presence as a Muslim firefighter impacts the community that you're in, that you're working in, you know, both within the fire department and beyond?
So for me, especially in the city that I work in, there's a lot of Arab, a lot of which don't speak good English or don't speak any English at all.
Oh, yeah, so that comes
Alhamdulillah, I speak Arabic fluently.
Yeah.
So being able to communicate with them, you know, when someone calls and they're having an emergency, but they can't convey what that emergency is to the people, you know, responding to them, it's, you kind of feel like you're handcuffed. You know, that person calling 911 feels like they're helpless, you know, like the help is right in front of you, but you don't know what to do, what to say. And obviously, you know, they'll figure it out. They'll start an assessment and they'll figure out what's wrong. But it's always easier when they can talk to you. So being that I can speak Arabic, I speak Arabic, and I speak to them and they're able to talk to me, you see immediately a sense of relief in them. And they're like, okay, I can communicate what my needs are. I can communicate what's going on. Even if it's something, you know, there are silly calls you run on. You know, some people, they call 911 for some weird stuff. But still being able to just, we are public servants. So being able to just talk to them and, you know, kind of comfort them and like, okay, you know, we'll take care of it. It's definitely a fulfilling sense, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. How about you, man? How do you feel like, you know, being a Muslim in the area? You know, Detroit still has a good amount of Muslims in the area.
Yeah,
and stuff,
you're right.
So.
It depends on the area you work in. So I run at Engine 52, Ladder 31, which is on Warren Avenue, but the other side on the east side. So it's Warren and Alter, Warren and Manistee. So it's deep east side. Not that much Muslims around that area. Now, if you work, there's a station actually southwest Detroit, Central and Dix, Engine 37. Huge Muslim area. There's a station, Engine 55, Southfield and Joy, huge Muslim area. Engine 56. There's certain stations that have Muslim populations where I worked a few times and I actually bumped into Arabic-speaking patients, and that actually came in handy that I speak fluent Arabic. But my area specifically, subhanAllah, not that much Arab. It's, the city of Detroit as a whole is like 75% black. But yeah, my area specifically, not that much, but I still represent. Like, subhanAllah, they be making jokes about me. Yo, it's the Yemeni firefighter.
Yeah.
Yo, they be making, they be making, like, I don't want to say the other jokes they say, but that's part of the culture, man. You just to get each other. But no, man, they know I'm Muslim. They know I'm Yemeni. They know I pray, all that good stuff. I be interacting with the community. They know that. And yeah, alhamdulillah.
That's beautiful. And we didn't get a chance to say your background. You're Palestinian, right?
Palestinian.
Yeah, so we want people to know. We got a Palestinian, we got a Yemeni firefighter. We're having a great conversation. This is a great time to take a quick break. So we're going to give a shout out to our next sponsor, Yusuf. So let's go ahead and give a shout out to a fire place that we were at yesterday. I saw Khalid actually yesterday, subhanAllah.
Oh, okay.
We got a chance to introduce ourselves then, which is Malika Kebab. So shout out to Malika
Nice.
Kebab,
They're
man.
good.
Yeah, I love that place. Great people over there and great service. So shout out to Malika Kebab.
Malika Kebab has become noted as one of the best Middle Eastern restaurants in the metro Detroit area. The restaurant has become a popular destination for visitors and is always full of satisfied locals who are proud to invite their guests to taste real Middle Eastern food. With options like shish platters, shawarma plates, shawarma sandwiches, lamb chops, fattoush, and tabbouleh salads, you can never go wrong when you choose to eat at Malika Kebab. They currently have 3 locations, West Dearborn, Taylor, and Trenton. Be sure to stop by Malika Kebab to satisfy all of your Middle Eastern cravings. You can also visit them at their website, malikkebab.com.
But we could talk about it later. But yeah, we were just talking about how we've seen him. Yes, I saw Khalid yesterday at Malika Kebab.
Kebab.
You know, I don't know if you want to continue on the story, if it relates to the situation, or if you wanted to just finish off what you were saying. I didn't want to cut you off or that.
No, we can talk about that.
Okay. All right. Shout out to him. But he was saying that he does work with Al Maghrib Institute too, which I did not know, man. So Allah Mabarak, that's very nice, man. Very
Great
good.
institute,
So
yeah.
They actually got an event coming up.
which one? With Umar
Umar
Suleiman
Suleiman.
coming
he's
up
he's
April
coming here.
12th, right?
Yep, April 12th.
Yeah.
The Fairlane Club.
Oh, okay,
Fairlane
wow.
Club. Umar Suleiman's coming. Someone sent me from the ICD. He sent me it. I'm like, what's up? I was like, you trying to make me do coverage, or what are you sending me this link for? Are you trying to make me share it? He didn't respond back to my text, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait till what he says. I mean, it's the end of Ramadan, it's Eid, and it's still like 12 days away too, so it's still got some time, or 2 weeks away exactly. From today. So with that said, I believe you had the last question. So what unique challenges have you encountered as a Muslim firefighter, and how have you navigated them? I mean, honestly, it doesn't necessarily have to be Muslim. I know it could just be as a firefighter.
In general.
But if there's an aspect of Muslim to it, you can add on to that too. It doesn't have to be though. You know what I'm saying? But what unique challenges, any unique challenges?
Since we're in the last day of Ramadan, I was fasting the other day and I had to break it, unfortunately. I was working and it's a strenuous job, obviously. You're carrying heavy equipment. You're climbing roofs, or unfortunately, the city of Detroit, we get one of the most fires in America. That's not a good statistic to have. A lot of them are vacant fires, or a lot of them are people, just your classic. They're plugging a bunch of portable heaters into one plug, or accidental fires. So we got something, a serious call, and I was actually ended up throwing up because I was fasting. I just couldn't handle it. I didn't have. So when you drink a lot of water, your body sweats it out. That's your way of perspirating. Like, that's your way of your body cooling itself down. I didn't have anything in my system, so I actually ended up throwing up, and I just broke my fast. That was a challenge. Fasting while firefighting is extremely difficult. I always pray for a slow day, so I could fast in
peace.
Not do too much work. I mean, we love the action. But obviously when I'm fasting, I'm like, Ya Allah, please don't don't give us like 10 calls in one day, 20 calls. But yeah, that was one unique challenge to Islam. Another one maybe is praying. Wallahi, at times we are extremely busy to the point where I'm very late on the salah. Sometimes I actually have to pray inside the hospital, because what happens, you can't get a call while you're inside the hospital. Does that make sense? Because when you get a call, you go to the patient, then you transport the patient to the hospital, and you're doing some documentation. So I end up praying inside the hospital because I know I'm not going to get a call. So sometimes when it comes to prayer, that's difficult. But other than that, that's the only thing I could think of. In general, there's some general things. Like I said, it goes back to endurance. You have to make sure you're absolutely fit. You have to make sure. I'm pretty sure every firehouse has like gym equipment, at least ours in Detroit. So you have to make sure you're working out. You're eating healthy. You're not only eating carbs and fats and whatnot. So that another thing is perhaps more, in my humble opinion, perhaps more than physical strength is mental strength. Actually, a lot of people don't talk about that. My opinion, you actually need to be more mentally strong than physically strong, because unfortunately, the things that we witness, I mean, I don't want to mention any specific scenarios, but
It can get to you. It can get to someone.
it can get, you know what, and I will honestly, because it's just because people need to wake up sometimes. We witness dead bodies very, very often, actually, whether it be family members having heart attacks right in front of their other family members. So while we're pumping somebody's chest or performing CPR, and the family's watching, sometimes we get on scene of a shooting. This guy's shot 5 times in his chest, and he's only 17, which is more common than it should be, unfortunately. When it's, you know what I mean? I mean, there's some stuff that we witness, especially in car accidents. Dearborn, unfortunately, I mean, I'm sure there's car accidents every day, just like in Detroit. But yeah, some of these car accidents can be extremely traumatic. For me, that's one of the reasons that we have Islam. I channel that energy, and Islam helps me, helps me channel it, helps me suppress it, and helps me understand why we're witnessing this stuff, and that it's life is a test. Other people, unfortunately, not unfortunate, if you have to go to therapy, there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially with car accidents, man, you do see some traumatic things, unfortunately, but it's part of the job.
I love those explanations, and I'm happy you were vulnerable enough to share that you had to break your fast, because some people try to be so
I'm gonna keep it real with you.
Yeah, they try to be so.
I was throwing up, man.
Manly man, that we're perfect, that this is what I do. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable and to share these kind of stories, because that's what, you know, people. No one's perfect, guys. No one's perfect, and stuff happens. Life happens. You know, it doesn't mean he's not gonna make it up. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's all. That's why we have situations. You know, just in case. But going off of that, same question to you. I guess if you want me to repeat it, unique challenges that you may have encountered being a Muslim firefighter.
That's kind of similar to what he said. The salah. One of the biggest things is when you have. There's more busy days than slower days, for me at least, from what I witnessed. There's more busy days than there are slower days. So when you have a busy day where you're running from, you know, you get into shift, usually we get there like, you know, for us, we get there like an hour or half an hour early. So you can make sure that the off-going crew gets off on time, and they don't have to get held over after already working 24 hours and they get held over more. So you get into shift and you get a call at 7:30. Before you even start, you're already taking a call, and then it's just downhill from then. There's no time. You're just running. And there was one day where I had to make up all 5 salawat at night. So at night I'm praying, not Fajr, 4 salawat, yeah. Dhuhr, Asr, and Maghrib, Isha, all at one time. I had to make them all up, and I was like, just completely just running all day, and that is a challenge, and you know, alhamdulillah, that doesn't happen too often. You know, most times we get a little break between calls, and you're able to fit a quick salah in.
Yeah.
Another thing, kind of like you said, the witnessing, you know, tragic accidents, witnessing assaults, traumas, stuff like that. It takes a toll on someone's iman, even, because to a point you start seeing such terrible things happen to people, good people. You start thinking, you know, actually I had someone asking this. He's like, you believe in the Lord of mercy, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, how is the Lord merciful if he's doing this to his people?
Yeah. I have debates with my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a debate just he's a great guy. He's an atheist. Doesn't mean he's not a great guy. I mean, you know, even though there's no sense of morality, but yeah, me and him had a debate. He's like, so yeah, you're Muslim, you know, you believe in Allah, you believe in this. And I was like, yeah, of course. And I was like, I also believe in this as a test, you know, this life's a test. He's like, okay, so how come God doesn't, you know, why does God allow children to die? I'm like, so if God didn't exist, children wouldn't be dying? And then he just stayed quiet. I'm like, whether God exists or not, which we 100% have complete conviction in God's existence, because something, you know, this world just couldn't come from nothing, you know, and something can't create itself. It doesn't mean evil is not going to exist. And that's actually one of the best parts about firefighting. When you really start to understand this world, you really start to understand it's evil and good. Wallahi. Yep. This world is good versus evil. And the way I like to see it, and not to sound mutakabbir, but we're good fighting evil. That's the whole point of just like police officers, and I respect them so much. Yeah. They don't get enough credit, to be honest. Just like nurses, just like even a janitor is good fighting evil. There's corruption in every job. So that's what we're here for. We're doing, I don't want to say like the Lord's work, how they say it like that, but yeah, we're just fighting the good fight, man. That's all it is. And just if we do witness evil things, but not that Allah allows it, you should be thinking, why would we allow that? Did Allah, like I said, man, some of these calls, you wouldn't even believe me. Like some of these calls, literally, like the other day we had a 37-year-old male sexually assault a 2-year-old. In what world would you think that would happen?
Yeah.
The other day we had, a car accident where unfortunately this guy was almost decapitated. Like in what in what world would you be witnessing this stuff? So just going back to that point, it's really good fighting, good versus evil.
And I want to continue on with yours, right?
Yeah.
So when he asked me that, is it does make you think, and no matter how strong your iman is, anyone would think. So it takes a toll on your iman because you start thinking that, and then but then you look, it brought me up to an ayah. I forgot what surah it was, but it says, "ما أصاب مصيبة إلا بإذن الله." ومن آمن بالله يهدى قلبه. So there's no hardship that afflicts anyone, or no tragedy that afflicts anyone, except with Allah allowing it. And there's always a divine reason. The second part of the ayah is whoever has belief in Allah and has trust in Allah, their hearts will be calm, their hearts will be guided. So when you look at that, everything does happen for a reason. No matter, even what we're seeing in Gaza, everything is a test, whether it's a test for that person or it's a test for the family member of the person that's, last time Allah, someone dies, and it's a test for their family to go through that hardship of dealing with a loss. There's a divine plan for everything. And, people who, especially kids, the hardest calls are the kids dying. When you see an adult dying, or getting killed or anything, it gets to a point where you kind of get used to it. Sadly. But when you see a kid die, it's a whole different thing. It hits you way differently. And those are the calls that kind of like get you thinking, keep you, some people even say keep you up at night, But then you look at it as, these kids they're like birds in Jannah is what we hear, They're straight to, there's no adhab for them, there's no,
that's the way I think about it too.
They're straight to Jannah.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's, you gotta think about it like that, and then turn to Allah, if you are having, there's a big thing in the Muslim and Arabic population is mental health.
Yeah.
It's a huge stigma, which people, they want to avoid it as much as they can. And you wouldn't believe how many calls we get for, calls like anxiety, which is such a simple thing, which is actually on the rise. Part of it being from, part of it is from screens and lack of attention span. And you start kind of things you see on TV, things you see on your phone. There's a huge rise in anxiety. You're having, 20-year-old person call for chest pain. We'll work them up, and then there's nothing showing. More than likely, you see they're starting to hyperventilate. If you're feeling like tingling in your hands, stuff like that. Those are all signs of an anxiety attack or hyperventilation syndrome. So, but there's such a stigma against it in the Muslim population, even though Islam teaches us that you need to take care of your mental health. So part of that being a Muslim firefighter is being able to turn to Allah when you're afflicted with stuff like this. Instead of channeling it in, and then it becomes something where you start having anxiety attacks, start having PTSD, stuff like that. No, you turn to Allah, you pray, you kind of just have a conversation with your Lord, make dua, and that's one of the nicest parts about being a Muslim and being a firefighter, is being able to channel that energy and turn it towards Allah.
Wallahi, he brought up a good point. One of my favorite quotes of all time. My bad,
No, it's okay. You're good. That's what we want. We want back and forth.
I think it was Ibn Taymiyyah. He's one of the most famous scholars. He says, الرجال هو الذي يخاف موت قلبه لا موت جسمه. A real man fears the death of his heart, not the death of his body. Because eventually your physical body, we're all gonna die. We're all gonna be 6 feet under, and that's not sadistic to say. That's just it's a reality check. But in terms of your heart, you could actually be alive but have a dead heart. What does that mean? Spiritual death. And you see that it's actually very rampant today with the rise of atheism and capitalism, and people being stuck on their phones and addicted to pornography, and people watching people die. I don't know why people willingly will watch people die on their phones, and addicted to gore and all this stuff. What happens is it starts desensitizing your heart, just like our job. What we see every day, and who am I? I only have almost 2 years on the job. There are really guys been fighting fires and going to medical calls for 15, 20, 30 years. That takes a toll on your mental health and your heart, where you start getting borderline sadistic, to be honest, because you're just so used to seeing it. You start to get desensitized. You're like, oh, it's another body. Oh, you're doing CPR. Oh, yeah. So what happens is, that's why, wallahi, it's so important, like he said, never ever, when a'udhu billah, question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has the keys to the unseen. Stick to your salah, stick to your Quran. It's a battle of good and evil. Wallahi, the more I get, I mean, I'm only 26, but the more I get older, I start to notice that. So that's so important. Just stick to your iman. You don't want more and more black dots going on your heart. You have to fight the shaitan, fight that urge, fight those bad thoughts. And yeah, I just love that point, man. You don't want to get desensitized, man.
Yep.
It's tough.
Listen, y'all didn't just come for some firefighter stories.
Yeah, you came
for some
philosophy.
Yeah, Islamic knowledge 101 over here, man. Like, mashallah, this is beautiful, man. I love the responses because, it's true. What you guys are saying is just true. Like, it's
reality,
facts. It's
man.
reality of it. And protecting your heart, man. As you're talking, I was like, man, that's my new slogan. Before I leave somebody's place, I'm gonna start telling people, hey, man, protect your heart, man.
Yeah. Oh,
because
my God,
your
man.
heart is so important. It's the most important organ in your body. I mean, obviously your brain too, but your heart controls so much of even what your brain is thinking.
Yep.
And so that's why, that's the part of your body that you should take care of and protect the most, because it's true. Everything that we do, we think it doesn't affect it. Like what we watch, what we see, how we talk, how we act.
Yep.
But
100%.
it all comes back to that.
circle.
So yeah. I know that I know he was talking about how he kind of talks, or has some debates with the atheists. But in general, how do you foster relationships with, your colleagues and even community members, who are from different faiths and backgrounds? Like, are you guys all, one brotherhood? Do you sometimes have some, disagreements, but hey, that's part of the brotherhood? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah. So obviously, there's sometimes you'll have some disagreements. For the most part, actually, for the whole part, I've never had anyone disrespect my deen or disrespect me as a person from my time with the fire department. They're all, like I said, it becomes a brotherhood, so that they'll ask you questions, and a lot of them are they don't know, even though they've worked in Dearborn for maybe 25 years, so obviously, they've been exposed to it. They don't know why we do the things we do. Like, someone was asking me why women wear the hijab. Why do they have to cover up? Why do you guys pray? Station 4, there's a masjid right next to us, and you hear whenever you stand outside, you can actually hear the adhan. Outside. Yeah. And so one guy that asked me the other day, he asked me, he's like, what's that sound? I was like that? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's the call to prayer. He's like, oh, what are they saying? I told him what that adhan, exactly what it's saying. He's like, oh, I've worked here, I've heard it all the time, and I never knew what it means.
Wow.
So there haven't really been many disagreements. Obviously, we all make jokes about each other. That's one of the biggest part of the firehouse is making jokes about someone. Other people will see it as bullying, but it's a vice. It goes back and forth. It's not like just one person's picking at someone. It's like everyone just picks at each other. That's just the way we bond.
Yeah.
After you go on a traumatic call, you come back and you start making jokes about each other just to kind of keep it lighthearted.
Yeah.
If you don't joke, the firehouse would be a very dark place. And
good point.
There'd be a huge rise in mental health issues in the firehouse. So joking is a big part of the way people cope. And so I know I kind of went off on a tangent.
No, that's true. It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Good points. And I'm glad that you said that, because to be honest with you, with all the different cultures and backgrounds, that's our one universal language is
jokes.
Yeah, laughter. It's the best medicine.
Laughter, yeah. How about you? I know you kind of said you go into debates, but overall, how's the department when it comes to interfaiths and all that stuff?
Oh, wallahi, yeah, Detroit's a very diverse city. I mean, just like Dearborn is, but obviously Detroit's all walks of life. Southwest is Hispanic. West side, east side, there's black, white, all Bengali near Hamtramck. So yeah, I actually, in I think 2 or 3 instances, I actually gave a Quran to one of my coworkers. That one coworker that saw me praying, and he's like, were you doing yoga? And actually that one coworker literally asked me, he's like, can you get me an English Quran? I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I got you. Literally the same day, I ordered an English Quran on Amazon called The Clear Quran. Just a shout out to that book, because that's actually, in my humble opinion, the best English translated Quran out there. It's called The Clear Quran by Mustafa Khattab. So I ordered that book from him and I gave it to him, and he's actually thinking about converting to Islam. Just literally 3 days ago, we were doing shift exchange. Our shift exchange is at 6:30 a.m. Similar schedule. We work 8 days a month, and then what happens during shift exchange? Something he brought up Ramadan, and he's like, "You guys don't even drink water? Is that true?" Everybody asks that,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, no, I don't." And then he's like, "Yeah, I've been thinking about Hinduism, and I looked into Islam." I'm like, "Yeah, no, Islam is it's monotheistic. It's this, is that. We believe in Christ. We believe in." And he was shocked by some of the things I was saying. And then he's like, again, he literally told me, he's like, "Can you get me a book?" I'm like, "Are you?" Again, I was like, "This is a way of me getting hasanat. I'll do it in a heartbeat. Money, I don't care about money, to be honest." So I also got him a book. You know what? Heck, I have your Instagram, I have your phone number. I'll keep you updated on whether they convert to Islam or revert to Islam. But yeah, very often, believe it or not, very often more than usual, especially because my name's Mohammed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They ask me, do you guys believe in Jesus? Do you guys believe in afterlife? They do get shocked when I say we believe in Jesus and he did perform miracles. They do get shocked when I tell them it's actually in the Bible that women cover up. It's in the Bible that Jesus used to put his head down, things of that sort. But and I love that part of the job. I literally just because I have a disagreement with you doesn't mean I hate you.
Yeah.
I could have a cup of coffee.
And that's what's the problem with the world today is that once
and that's why I love this platform.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I think there should be more platforms like this because we live in, I'm not sure what word to use, maybe sensitive. Like,
very sensitive.
Just because I disagree with you, you're going to think that I'm attacking you. No, you could disagree with Islam. I'm not going to take offense to it. Let's have some shahi adani and let's have a discussion. You could
just make sure you don't drink the adani past 10 o'clock.
Yeah, Allah musta'an. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. It got me in Ramadan a couple times, man. Sometimes I'm not gonna drink. And then you go to an event and they have it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take a cup. And then next thing you know, I don't go to sleep till 3, 4
I actually brought adani one time too to the firehouse. You know that even when I cook, actually. You know what? That's such I'm happy you brought that up. When we take turns cooking. And man, my wife is pissed off. I never cook at home. So when we take turns cooking, we usually we either take the rig shopping, we take the fire truck shopping, or sometimes depending on the captain, he lets you take your own car shopping. I like when the captain lets you take your own car because I actually drive back to Dearborn. I buy halal meat. I buy Arabic related items. So last time I cooked, it was Sunday. Usually Sunday we do breakfast. I cooked them fasulya. I cooked them, bismillah, potato cheese pancakes. I cooked them...
Potato cheese pancakes?
That's not Arab.
I've never heard of that. No. Potato cheese pancakes?
When I cook, I usually just go on YouTube.
Okay.
And alhamdulillah. I cooked them shakshuka. Yes. So I cooked them shakshuka. I cooked them fasulya. I cooked them potato cheese pancake. I cooked them easy, lebna za'atar. And they were shocked. They're like, "Man, Muhammad, when we usually, eat breakfast, French toast, bacon, waffles." I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm gonna take care of it. I got you guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring you guys, and it's my honor." Wallah, I legit told them it's my honor to show you guys my culture. Maybe you'll cook the mansaf. And maybe one day, hanith is expensive.
That's no joke.
Yeah, I know. yeah.
You got to really like him to give him.
Yeah.
Hey, do you work with Mohammed, by the way, or no?
So he works in another station and stuff. Because obviously Detroit's a
it's a big city. I was wondering.
He works in Southwest Detroit.
Okay.
I work on the east side.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right, man. Look at that. Having some great conversations, and we're talking about food again, man. We're getting hungry again. Believe it or not, we're moving into the last third of the show, so we're gonna give our last.
I'm sad. I'm enjoying this, man.
Yeah. So we're moving on to the final sponsor of today. We're gonna go ahead and give a shout out. We've been doing food all day, so let's go ahead and give another shout out to another fireplace, which is going to be Holy Bowly, man. Shout out to Holy Bowly. If you haven't tried them, they're in the Detroit area too. You need to stop by them.
Okay.
Holy Bowly, great people, great owners as well. So shout out to Holy Bowly. Holy moly, you have to try out Holy Bowly. Holy Bowly is your go-to destination for vibrant bowls and delicious sandwiches. Everything they serve is 100% fresh, and they have halal options as well. Their mouth-watering bowls are always packed to the top, so you're getting the most bang for your buck. They currently have 2 locations in Detroit, and you can check out all their food on their website at www.myholybowly.com. So we're over here laughing a little bit. Let me just tell you a quick story, then you guys can jump on this. So basically, the Chief Jimmy, shout out to him, great guy. He originally called out the Hamtramck Fire Department because when it was a Puchki Day run, he wanted to do like a Hamtramck versus fire, police versus fire
for Hamtramck. And then the fire department kind of got wind of it late, so they decided to back down. So I was like, you know what, we'll jump in for them. We'll run on the behalf of the fire department. And so we had Oz Media versus the Hamtramck Fire, and we ended up winning. So I had to make sure we put that out there too, as a joke. But all jokes aside, one of the most interesting things in every city is the relationship between the police and the fire.
We get along. Yeah.
You guys get okay. I'm not gonna lie, because some of them, they have that little, thing going on where it's like, we're better than you.
It's movies and TV, and just like he was talking about Chicago Fire. In my humble opinion, and I'm sure he'll agree with this, TV shows and movies are not an accurate representation of firefighting
at all.
Or policing. Yes, they did the dichotomy between police and fire is usually in movies like animosity. We don't like each other. Oh, you hose dragger. Oh, you whatever.
Yeah.
No, but the truth is, wallahi, there's so much mutual respect. We work together on scene more often than people think. Car accidents, cops and firefighters. Medical calls, when it's a shooting, cops, firefighters. Overdoses, cops and firefighters. What is it called? And yeah, we just have mutual respect. We're both risking our lives. It's extremely, extremely unfortunate how the media portrays cops, especially the same people that send defund the police or the same people that will call 911 when they're experiencing an emergency. Cops will put their lives on risk. I've been to SWAT calls where we're on standby and they're the ones breaking open the door and they're the ones going inside while a guy's pointing a gun at them. So major respect for police officers. Two of my cousins are NYPD cops, and my cousin Mohammed Aljahmi is a Dearborn police officer. So yeah, just mutual respect. We both put our lives on the line, and there is joking aspects, and that just goes back to part of the job. You need that, you know what I mean? So.
And you were mentioning that a lot of the police people say that
Yeah.
they had to do it all over again. They had to be a firefighter, man. How was it in Dearborn?
I have heard a lot of them say that.
That's funny.
Some of it's jokes, but some of it does come back to, the truth of in this climate nowadays, like he was saying,
it sucks.
Unfortunately, police are hated. And
unfortunately.
They're doing a very important job. And, people, when they see someone, when you get pulled over speeding or when you see them pulling someone else over, like, you got to realize it's, kind of the small things that lead up to something bigger. Dearborn has a huge speeding issue, as we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of car crashes, a lot of people speeding. So you see the cops pulling over someone for speeding, it's to prevent, that, or them impounding, a car that was street racing, to prevent a kid, a 17-year-old dying in a car accident, which we see very often.
Yeah.
Too often.
Way too often. So, but cops are hated. So the cops nowadays, they're saying, you could be a firefighter.
People like you.
People like you. You're loved. They call you a hero. They'll bring food to the firehouse. They'll bring sweets to the firehouse. They'll thank you. Police nowadays is a thankless job.
Yeah,
it is.
It's so man, angry. Believe I get livid because I got so much love for them, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, they are. It's unfortunate. And a quick point too, they arrest a guy that has 15 previous criminal charges. What does the court system do? Release him back to the street. And the cop's like, damn, I can't even do my job.
Yeah.
I'll arrest a guy. I'm doing my job of enforcing the law. And the court system will send him right back. And usually what the court system will do, they'll officially place the guy in jail permanently until when? Until he usually murders a guy. So it's the justice system here is unfortunately I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
Kind of works against the police department.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's why people are unmotivated to become police. That's why there's a police shortage right now all over America.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
And the firefighting. Yeah.
But to answer your question, we get along. We, if they ever had a medical emergency, or if they ever got shot at law, they call us. If whenever we go to a call where, it sounds like there's potentially something, something that's going to harm our safety, we wait for something called, scene safety. It's the biggest thing you learn right when you start any EMS or fire.
BSI.
Biggest thing is scene safety. Is, the police officers are there to protect us and we're there to help the cops. You work hand in hand. They come to the firehouse all the time. They'll sit down with us while we eat. Sometimes they'll come, eat with us. There's a mutual respect and a mutual love for each other. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so off of that, how do you approach emergency situations? Because I know you work in Dearborn, so there's a lot of more Muslims than probably the area that he works in. So obviously, with Muslims, there's a lot of red flags. You got to be careful before you approach a situation, especially when there's women involved. Yep. So how do you deal with like those, cultural sensitive, situations as a firefighter?
So yeah, like you said, it happens more often than not. Most of the times when people call 911, they're prepared. kind of prepared. They'll, if there's this hijab out there, they'll usually, either cover up or, go to a different room to. But then sometimes you'll run calls unmuhajjabat, and if you have unfortunately you have like a hijabi lady that's passed out. We do our best to still treat her but protect her modesty. So usually what I'll do is, get them into the back of the ambulance as soon as possible, get away from everyone, close the doors, no one else is there. Obviously you have to perform tests that might, you have to, do an EKG, stuff like that. But you still try to preserve their modesty. You try to protect them as best as you can. When you go into a house that has muhajjabat, obviously, I'm always respectful about it. Not looking at them, not asking sensitive questions in front of everyone. But so it's it's a blessing to me because I get to treat my community the way I know they want to be treated.
Oh, that's a good point.
Actually, a story. Sorry, this just came to my head. A story that reminded me of. I was working at our station 3, which is in the South End, and we got a call at 6 a.m. This is a couple months ago, 3 months ago. We got a call for a diabetic with low blood sugar. First, they gave us the wrong address. The person who called 911 gave the wrong address, unfortunately. So we couldn't find them. And then finally we found them. And this guy's blood sugar was really low. When they checked it, it was 26.
Oh, my God.
26 is
Ridiculous.
deathly low.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the family didn't know, and they gave him extra insulin, which insulin lowers your blood sugar. They gave him extra insulin. They thought it would bring up his blood sugar. So they gave him extra insulin, and now his blood sugar is super, super low. And when your blood sugar is below, most of the time when your blood sugar is below 50, below 60, you're in a state called, it's like an altered mental status. So your mind isn't right. Literally. You don't know where you are. You're exhibiting, your body's weak. You're not moving. A lot of times they'll be completely passed out and just slumped over, drooling and all that. This guy was moving, and he was only saying one thing. Only thing he kept repeating. He didn't know where he was. Couldn't talk to us. Couldn't say anything. Only thing he kept saying was, La ilaha illallah.
Oh, man.
Altered low, like he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know anything about himself. He is on the verge of death, and the only thing he was saying was La ilaha illallah. And wallahi, that story, I went home and I told it to my mom right away, and that story stuck with me. And I think about it to this day. This guy is dying. We all wish for a death like that. We all, we all wish for a death on the shahada. We all wish for the death where the shahada is on our tongues. And you always hear it's not that easy. You have to have a life of service towards Allah. You have to actually have Allah's like the first thing on your mind. And this guy was on the verge of death, and the first thing he was saying was La ilaha illallah. Alhamdulillah, we ended up, we got an IV. We gave him dextrose, which raises blood sugar. He was okay after that. He kind of woke right back up. That just story stuck with you. And you said, going on calls with Muslims, the only thing he kept repeating was La ilaha illallah.
Beautiful story. Beautiful story. Give that a round of applause. That was a great story, man. Same thing with you, man. I know you don't deal with too much Muslims, but obviously it doesn't mean cultural sensitivities have to just stick with Muslim people. How do you deal with it, as a Muslim firefighter? How do you deal with other cultural sensitivities?
SubhanAllah, in terms of other cultures, it's not as noticeable, I guess you could say. Alhamdulillah, with us, we really keep our culture and our religion strong. Perhaps other walks of life, it's just not as prevalent, you know what I mean? The few times I did have calls with Muslims, I felt a sense of agitation, and I'll explain why. If you are calling 911, it's an emergency, am I correct?
Yeah.
At least it's supposed to be. So we had an emergency with a female, and she was having some cardiac issues. We had to place, part of our procedures to place an EKG, which is stickers on her chest, which gives us a better reading of her heart. So the father or the male figure in her house starts saying, "Oh, this is Aib. No, khalas, don't do this at the hospital." But brother, Habibi, you called 911. Do you think I wanna, when a'udhu billah, feel that? No. I'm trying to do my job. You called 911. I think that's a form of ignorance, jahiliyyah. If you called 911, don't think I don't think I had the intention of wanting to see that. No, we just have to do our job. We're trying to save her life. Maybe she could really be experiencing a heart attack. So that's just something that agitated me. People have to distinguish that we're here to help. You know what I mean? Whether Muslim or not, you shouldn't have the backwards mentality. Oh, don't touch my dog. I'm like, but you call 911.
Let me ask you this question.
Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%.
You know what I mean?
I already know where you're going with this, and I'm
Yeah.
sure Khalid knows what you're saying. So, do you think if it was not you, would they be okay with it?
That's a great, wow. Man, you know what? I'm happy that you mentioned that, and I'm happy that you had the
Courage to say it.
the balls to say
Yeah.
that. Because sometimes we be having that backwards mentality of we're more afraid of this guy being Yemeni
Yeah.
or maybe a Palestinian. But if it was an American or a white guy, okay, khalas, it's fine. Maybe he doesn't know such and such. He doesn't know our faith. But why does that matter? It is a very backwards world we live in, where at times we
And this is an emergency situation, by the way.
Legit-
This isn't no stubbed
No,
toe
no.
or
Yeah.
broken arm.
Yeah.
This is almost life or death, right?
At times, we prefer culture over deen. And that's one of the biggest issues with certain nationalities. And I'm only seeing this because I'm Yemeni. That's actually an issue with the Yemeni community at times. And there's 30 million Yemenis in the world. I'm not saying all 30 million, but at times the Yemeni community will preference culture over deen, or they'll intertwine it where they kind of counteract each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that certain family, that specifically was Yemeni, and that's why I just felt a certain level of agitation. I was trying to explain it to my brother, and he's my brother in this. I'm like, Akhi, you call 911.
Yeah.
What do you want me to, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm happy you did bring up that point. I'm not sure if you have
Hey,
to
I ain't
say
gonna lie
that.
to you. That might be a clip so that we can have people debating.
Yeah,
that
it's
conversation. Even
I mean-
yours is a great story too. So that's 2 clips right there. I'm happy that we could. I'm figuring out the clips now.
Yeah.
I don't have to go back later and
Like, think
look
about
through
it
it.
later.
Yeah, but go ahead. What were you about to say?
Just going back to that, the only thing I'll say is just kind of my advice to you.
Please, yeah.
Is from working in Dearborn, and also having sisters that are Muhajjabat. Whenever it's unless when someone's actively dying, you can see that they're actively dying. When someone's having a heart attack, more times than less, you can tell that they're having a heart attack just by looking at them, just by the way they present. So a lot of Arab, unfortunately, they call for we get a lot of chest pain calls, and most of the times, when you have a 20-year-old guy having chest pain, it's not a heart attack. It's usually anxiety. It's usually something stress related, stress induced, which it can be a medical emergency. So when we have someone muhajjaba or someone like that, for me, where technically our protocols require an EKG. I'll ask them if I can do an EKG. If they say no, if they don't want it done, that's their right. Medically, that is, they can refuse care. If they don't want to go to the hospital, I can't force them to go to the hospital.
Of course, yeah.
If they say they don't want me to touch them and I touch them without their consent, that can be assault. So if she doesn't want me to do an EKG, she wants to wait to the hospital, because I have had that multiple times. Usually I'll tell them, okay, we'll take you to the hospital, and they usually like the hospital more. You're in a room,
Enclosed.
you got curtains.
I get it.
And usually there are female nurses, so you can request a female nurse to do the EKG, and usually the Muslim women are more comfortable with that. So I usually have no problem with that. If they don't want us to do an EKG in the house, especially because you got chest pain calls, for example, with like older people. Usually you'll have a fire truck and an ambulance.
Yeah.
So you'll have 5 strange guys or
Stranger,
however many strange guys or girls in your house, and you don't know them, and you don't necessarily you feel like you're having chest pain, you might be having a medical emergency, but you still don't necessarily want to expose yourself to them. You just want to ride to the hospital, which is like no problem. We're public service, and I'll take you to the hospital.
Yeah. No, great points, man. I mean, it's just one of those conversations where
I'm happy you brought that up.
Yeah, it's just tough. It's tough. It's a tough situation for you guys. Tough situation for the families. So it's definitely one of those conversations pieces. So, can you share a memorable experience? It's like story time. What's the most that you can share? Memorable experience from your time as a firefighter that highlights the importance of your role in the community.
That's a great question. I would probably mention it's an unfortunate story with a good ending, if that makes sense. So what happened was I was on the ambulance and we got dispatched to a stabbing. I probably shouldn't say the address, but we got dispatched to a stabbing, and unfortunately a homeless man was stabbed 3 times in his throat, twice in his neck and twice in his throat and once in the back of his neck. We got on scene. He was absolutely soaking in blood, so we threw him on the stretcher. We bandaged up his wounds. We gave him oxygen. We're checking his vitals. Actually, as he's in front of us and as we're placing the oxygen mask on his face, heart attack. He experiences a cardiac arrest. It's most likely due to the loss of blood. So he has a heart attack quite literally in front of us. He starts agonal breathing. which is basically it's false breathing, and maybe we could go into it. We start CPR. We place AED pads, which is to defibrillate, shock his heart, and one of the best endings about the story is, alhamdulillah, he actually ended up living. So that's one of the nobody else can say that, really. It's just one of the most fulfilling parts about the job.
Pretty much brought a person back to life.
By the will of Allah, we were allowed to bring somebody back to life. So when we got him to the hospital, he got his pulse back. The doctors and nurses, they're also, they're the real heroes, man. I respect them so much. You wouldn't even believe it. My little brother's becoming a nurse right now. And they stabilized him. They gave him whatever drugs they needed to inject into him. And he ended up making, alhamdulillah. So that's one of the many memorable moments I have on the job, is the fact that we literally get to save lives. Like, it is unfortunate, and he can attest to this, is that it's a misconception to the public. I would say 75% of our calls are not real emergencies.
If not higher.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's a misconception. It's one of the biggest misconceptions about firefighting and EMS, which go hand in hand, is over 70, I'll just say 75. 3/4, 75% of our calls are not actual emergencies. If you want a few examples, toe pain. We get called for toe pain. As Allah's my witness, no joke. We get called 3 o'clock in the morning, a 26-year-old's calling for a headache. Waking us up. Not that I'm mad that he woke us up, that's part of the job. But you're having a headache and you're calling 911, you can't handle that on your own, and you're not allowing us to respond to real emergencies. So it's perhaps worse in the city of Detroit, just because their education rates are extremely low and their poverty rates are extremely high. That's a bad combination usually. Usually when poverty is high, crime ends up being high as well. They go hand in hand. So the education rates are really low, so people tend to think 911 is a taxi service. They'll call for stub toe. I got a call for hiccups one time. I got on scene, he was having hiccups.
No, hiccups can be deadly sometimes, man.
Yeah, Khalid, you can encourage them that, right?
I'm just joking, man. I'm just joking.
So, yeah.
How about you? Like, what's a story that maybe, I know that was a great one that you mentioned earlier, the La ilaha illallah one, but any other memorable time that you had that, shows people the importance of your role in the community?
First thing I'm going to say, don't hesitate to call 911. If you want to call 911,
yes,
call 911.
Yes.
We are public servants. We are there to serve you.
Yeah.
No matter what city you're in, no matter what state you're in, if you feel like you need an emergency service right then and there,
don't hesitate.
Never hesitate to call. No, if you think it's stupid, if you think it's embarrassing, we've seen everything: embarrassing, not embarrassing, serious, not serious. So never hesitate to call 911. I just want to put that out there. I don't want people to feel like embarrassed to call 911 now or anything like that. No, always call 911 if you feel like you need it. Stories, like you said, that La ilaha illallah story was the one that hit the most with me. Other than that, there are multiple stories. Like you said, CPRs are, unfortunately nowadays, CPRs are harder to get back. Usually when people's hearts stop nowadays, they just stop and they never come back. Or even hospitals see this. One of my most memorable things, maybe not necessarily a story, but most memorable things is being able to, someone calls 911 for an emergency or, like a CPR, and you're able to bring every drug, every breathing equipment, anything that the hospital would use for like a CPR necessarily, or at least for, paramedic services, you're bringing that all into someone's house. So anything that the ER can do for, a life-threatening emergency, anything the ER can do, you're bringing that into their house. And sometimes people don't understand it. Well, why are you treating them in my house? Why aren't you just like, we'll have CPRs or, we're working CPR, we're pushing drugs, we're, intubating the person, and they're asking us, like, why aren't you driving? Like, why aren't you just picking them up and going? We're like, everything that the ER is going to do is we're bringing that to your house and we're going to do it right here. It's much faster. When you're driving down the road doing CPR, you're hitting those bumps, you're not having consistent CPR. Your CPR is not great. So that's like the most memorable thing, is like kind of seeing people's, they kind of just, they calm down once they see that, okay, help is here. You walk in, they call 911, you walk in, especially when they don't speak English and you speak Arabic to them. They kind of just take a breath, they calm
Relief.
down. You're able to kind of calm them down. That's most memorable thing. Other than the La ilaha illallah story, that one will stick with me forever.
I love that. I
I'll
love
tell that story 30 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, inshallah, we're gonna make that into a clip so that people can remember that story as well if they don't get a chance to watch the whole episode. And believe it or not, we're into the final question. So Khalid, I'm going to you on this one to start off with is future. Like, what is your hopes for the future? You know, especially when it comes to diversity within the fire profession. You know, obviously, you know, the cities are starting to become a little bit more diverse, but obviously can maybe get a little bit more work with it. Any city, I feel like, you know, proper representation is important, right? So, like, what is your hope in the future when it comes to diversity within fire departments, within the communities that you guys both serve?
First thing is kind of going to the beginning of the show is, inshallah, maybe the stigma of the Arab parents wishing that their kids just become doctors, lawyers, or engineers kind of goes away. And obviously, you know, we're seeing that kids are becoming more creative. They're kind of doing more things that they like. There's a lot of kids that do, you know, you're seeing a lot of more Arab police officers, and inshallah, you know, you'll see more. They'll pick the right option, pick the happy option, become a firefighter. But inshallah, just seeing kids do what they want rather than, obviously, you know, pleasing your parents is important, but this is something you can do for the rest of your life. So if you got to pick a job that you like. And there is a lot of kids that, you know, I've heard them tell me, you know, I'd love to be a firefighter. It seems like such a cool job. You know, I would love to be a police officer, but, you know, my parents want me to become a doctor. Oh, my parents want me to become an engineer. Oh, I want to make money. That's another thing is chasing the money in this dunya. You realize, you know, especially in this job, you realize that the dunya ends like this.
Oh, man.
Seeing people die.
Best reminder.
You know, seeing someone die quite literally in your hands. You know, you're working on them. They die right in front of you. It makes you realize that this dunya is so short. There's no reason to waste it on money. Kids die. I've had a 2-year-old die. I've had a 6-month-old die. You know, kids are dying. Old people are dying. 17-year-olds are dying. This dunya is so short. There's no point in wasting it on money. And if you're doing a job just for the money, there's no point in that. And you do a job that's, you know, obviously if you do everything for the sake of Allah, you get ajr for it no matter what. But you do something that's fulfilling, actually has a purpose. It's, you know, it's a lot better. So if any kid out there, you know, or any of your kids, if anyone watching has kids, your kids want to become firefighters, let them, man. It's the best job in the world.
I love that. I love that.
Never hear a firefighter complaining about their job.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. What are your hopes when it comes to like diversity within the fire department profession?
I want to piggyback off what he said. One of my favorite verses in the Quran is chapter of Sheba, Surah Saba. وما أموالكم ولا أولادكم بالتي تقربكم عندنا زلفى إلا من آمن وعمل صالحا. Wallahi, akhi, this is one of the deepest verses, and it motivated me to stay being a firefighter. It is not your children nor your wealth. It is not your lineage nor your wealth that get you closer to us. It is believing and doing good deeds that gets you closer to us. It doesn't matter whether you're Bayt Aljahmi or Bayt whatever. It doesn't matter whether you're Yemeni or Palestinian. It doesn't matter whether you're a billionaire or you're making $50,000 a year. That does not get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What gets you closer is doing good deeds. As simple as opening the door for somebody, fasting, praying. That's one of my favorite aspects of this job, is that it's unfortunate. We do get see death very often. But you know what? That's a grim reminder. It's a reminder that people don't like to talk about. One of the best things to raise your iman, as a matter of fact, is doing what? Going to Salat al-Janazah. Wallahi, one of the best ways to raise your iman is usually, they don't do it in New York, but I noticed in Michigan, the masajid do open caskets. And yeah, man, you pass by that body, pale, lifeless, just a body now. The soul is gone. The ruh is you know, it's going to be questioned now. So yeah, just wanted to piggyback, man. That's one of my favorite verses, Surah Saba. Man, you wouldn't even believe. I think about that verse while driving to work. I think about that verse in the masjid. So yeah, that's one thing. I would hope more Muslims do join this job, because this job literally, man, good versus evil. Dunya and akhirah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا آخرة وفي ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. So I would hope more Muslims would join this job. Representation. When it comes to the word diversity, I'm not the biggest fan of that word. To be quite honest, I'm actually I oppose diversity in a sense. okay, I oppose DEI in a sense that I don't believe somebody should be hired just because they're a certain race or they're a certain gender, especially in first responder jobs, especially being an EMT. Paramedics, literally, a lot of people don't know this, they do more than nurses. They do more invasive procedures. They intubate. You know what intubate means? Is where, in layman terms, you guys put a tube.
A breathing tube down the
They
throat.
put breathing tubes down people's throats. They do needle decompression, IVs. That you don't want somebody that was a DEI hire to perform such a invasive procedure. Firefighting, fighting fires, dragging hose, climbing stairs. We had a fire one time on the 7th floor. So obviously the hose not gonna be long enough, so you have to carry the hose on your pack 7 flights of stairs. So I'm yeah, you know, I don't like the word controversial either. I guess you could say I am, but I'm against DI hires, especially in life-saving jobs such as firefighting, police officers, EMTs, paramedics. I don't believe if there's a Yemeni, a white guy, a black guy, and an Asian, and we all score the same, let's say we all score. I don't believe I should be preferred just because I'm Yemeni. Or let's say the white guy scores more than me and I score a little bit less, but I should be preferred. No, the person who does the job and executes it flawlessly, regardless of gender or race, should get the job. That's what's going on today. That's what Trump's trying to. And I'm not taking sides here politically, but I'm just saying I am totally against DEI hires. You should hire somebody because they do the job correctly.
Great point, man. Look at these guys right here, man. They just spoke facts the whole episode, man. And I, alhamdulillah for this show, because it was a fun show. It was nice to hear about what firefighters do. And so before we close out the show, I'm going to let you guys give a final word, but I am going to also mention one more time, how can you watch this episode? How can you follow us for future episodes? We have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Apple, and Spotify podcasts, all under Oz Media. You can find all of our platforms on our website at ozmedia313.com, including this episode, by the way. Shout out to the sponsors, Henley International Academy, Holy Bowly, Wing Fellas, Juice Box, Malika Kebab, Jebed Coffee House, and Royal Kebab. We appreciate them and their support. Final words, final comments. Mohammed, we'll let you get this last one. Any final words and final comments that you want to share to the audience, man?
Well, first off, this was an absolute pleasure. I learned a lot from both of you. What I would say is, just going back to what he said, just don't hesitate to call 911. We don't only show up to fires. We go to seizures, we go to strokes, we go to stabbings, we go to shootings. You're stuck in an elevator, call 911. You were in a car accident, call 911. Your cat's stuck in a tree. So, it's a misconception because the word fires in front of it that we only respond to fires, but we go to building collapses. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 911. We are literally here to serve the public, and wallah, it's so humbling to even say that. The fact that people call us during their worst times, even though like I said, people do misuse the 911 system, but it's an absolute honor that I get to serve the people of Detroit, just like I'm sure it's an honor for him to get to serve the people of Dearborn.
Like I said, Jazakallah khair for having us. This was a pleasure. Alhamdulillah, it was nice. Felt just sitting and talking to my brothers here. Yeah. It was a beautiful conversation. Like you said, if you ever need 911, don't hesitate to call. A lot of stories were shared here, but don't let that wave you one way or another. And alhamdulillah.
And, when he was mentioning the 911 facts, he just wanted to state the fact that 75% of them are, calls that were not needed. But obviously, they're here to serve. So they made that clear that they want you guys to still call that number for any emergency or any emergency you think is an emergency, too. They're here to answer it. They just wanted to state the fact that a lot of them were calls that were, what was that? Not false calls or false alarms. Yeah, false emergencies.
Can I give one more shout out?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to give a shout out to Bora Bora.
Bora Bora. All right. Shout out to Bora Bora.
Best smoothies in Michigan Avenue. That's pretty much.
There you go. And then also shout out to Mohammed and Uthman one more time, man. We appreciate
they're great
them
guys.
and their support, man. Great people. Shout out to them. They were the middlemen.
Future city councilman.
Yeah, future city councilman.
I'm voting for him.
He's gonna be smiling from cheek to cheek. So inshallah khair, man. Again, thank you guys all for watching. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. This was season 4, episode 24 of Motivate Me 313's podcast. Where this this. We do episodes every week, so be sure to follow us. This was all about courage under fire. Muslim firefighters share their journeys with Mohammed and Khalid. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you all next time.